it's not Wilfred Nancy's fault that his first game was against Hearts. There are reasons for that, and he's got a really tough run, and he's got 3 horrible games that he's going to have to implement a style. Not his fault.
I don't think there was any good way that this was going to work out, particularly with the involvement of Martin O'Neill.
He's off to a losing start, and you've just the guy's got no chance now.
We messed up last January in the summer, and it has caused almighty chaos at Celtic.
The team is a shambling mess at the moment in terms of personnel.
This formation, 4-3-3, Celtic don't have the players for any formation right now.
Drama at Celtic as Wilfred Nancy tears up the Martin O'Neill blueprint and loses to Hearts. And have Celtic declared war on fan media? That's this week on 20 Minute Tims. I'm your host Jamie, joined by Melly.
Yes.
And Stephen.
Merry bloody Christmas, folks.
It's never, the drama is never ending. And I've got to say, we'll get to it, but I have seen some generational head loss on the internet. Because I don't know if you noticed, Melly, but Wilfred Nancy lost his first game in charge.
He sure did. It was one that kind of now had to win, but didn't. And ultimately, it seems to be, it's just caused absolute chaos. But Celtic haven't been playing that well recently. They've been getting wins. He comes in, changes it, and Celtic don't win. And a lot of people are saying, that's it, he's done for and all that. I'm like, okay.
See that we've been there so many times before. It's just amplified now because we're on the internet, the social media age. We had that with Gordon Strachan, we had it with Ange, we probably had it with Brendan Rodgers after he lost to Red Imps. Yep. We've probably had it for every single manager we've ever had. It just feels particularly intense this time around because it's been a bad season. You know, we've traditionally in the past we've had summers to build up to things, and then it goes wrong in the first couple of games, and that causes a panic. What we're faced with here is a bad season it feels like about to get worse because we've changed things in December. So that's why that feels so intense. However, there has been, as you say, generational head loss out there. I have been actively avoiding it. I decided to avoid the internet as soon as I got home from the game yesterday. That's not to say I haven't seen some, but everything I've learned about what's going on online, I have learned against my will. I've been sent some hot takes online, and it is going buck wild out there with the hot takes.
Let me ask the question that's on the tip of everyone's fork, Melly, on the tip of everyone's blade as they look to thrust it into Wilfred Nancy's back, metaphorically speaking. Was he right to change it, Swelly?
Harry Hindsight says no, but what did he change? He took out Colby Donovan and Luke McCowan, basically. Tierney came in for Sriracha, but that was down to injury. So he's made those changes. Changed the formation. Is it going to work? Maybe, maybe not. But were Celtic that bad? Did they play any worse than they did against Falkirk, St Mirren? What was the other game? Dundee. It's been poor recently, and Celtic have been scraping by in games. He changed it, and maybe it looks bad because of that. But ultimately, look, he's the manager. He's came in. You've got an idea of how you want to play. Do you just wait and implement it? Wait till you lose a game and then change it about? A loss was coming for Celtic at one point because we've kind of forgotten over the last few weeks how bad this squad is because we've been scraping by and getting wins, and look, you take the wins as they come, and then he changes it and we lose. Was it because of that? Possibly. Was it definitely because of that? I can't say so for sure.
Stephen?
I suppose there is a case to be made here that you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if he does just continue what has been happening in the last few weeks based on results, based on outcomes, then, as Melly says, change it after the first bad result. That kind of looks like you doubted yourself coming in. Now, again, this is all with the benefit of hindsight. It looks bad either way. It looks bad by changing things from a winning team but not performing particularly great. But there's no doubt that going from wins to a defeat is going to look bad if there's such a dramatic change in approach, in formation particularly. Now, the personnel's not that different, as Melly's already said. It's just Colby Donovan and Luke McCowan, but the shape is completely different. It's completely alien to everything we've really seen this season, and it looked that way to the players. So it's a bad look to start that way, but really how I'm looking at it, how I'm choosing to look at it at first, again, I'm refusing to lose the head over one defeat. We've gone from, in the matter of 3 or 4 days, we've gone from really playing quite badly against Dundee, but scraping to a 1-0 win over the second worst team in the league, to losing 2-1, playing quite badly and losing 2-1 to the team that's top of the league. Now, neither of those things are particularly good. It's just one was a win and one was a defeat. So I don't think all that much has changed in terms of the overall performance. I have a slight issue with the idea of Wilfred Nancy having torn everything up, because what is it we're actually talking about there? No, I'm not completely denying it. I'm not being obtuse about that. He's clearly changed significantly so far. But what is it that has been torn up? Is it just the results? Because you can't tear up outcomes, you can tear up methods, and that has been changed. But my counter to that would be that Celtic were playing badly anyway. It's just that they were just about scraping wins over quite poor teams, and that has largely masked some of the deficiencies.
Look, was he right to tear it up? Yeah.
Yeah.
We brought a manager in who has a way of playing. We brought him in because he has that way of playing. Why does he play that way? Because he thinks that's the best way to win football matches. We're back to the Ange thing again.
Yeah.
But the comparisons between him and Ange, I think, are a wee bit off, and we can maybe get to that. But there's no point him coming in and saying, right, I'll just do what the last guy did. Because what Martin O'Neill's job was to do was to get us through a short period of time as best Martin O'Neill could. It's no Wilfred Nancy's job to do it. He's been brought in to do a job. So you just start it as soon as possible. If you want to implement a system, there's no sense in delaying it. Now, it's not Wilfred Nancy's fault that his first game was against Hearts. There are reasons for that. And he's got a really tough run, and he's got 3 horrible games that he's going to have to implement a style. Not his fault. Now, he could do the other thing. And I don't really know what dribs and drabs looks like. It's a different formation, and I think people are a wee bit spooked by that. You don't play, you don't go from playing 4-3-3 to 3-4-3 to, you don't just
play a back three and a bit.
You let every week
four,
move one player to where you want them to be. No, you just start them all and you go, and you have a bit of faith in yourself that you'll get up and motoring as soon as time goes by, and there's plenty of games left, and Celtic are the better. I think as you both said, we lost to Hearts. We've lost the Hearts before.
Yeah.
We've seen players not play well. The players have not been playing well all week. Yeah, all season rather. Yes, Martin O'Neill got us through these games, but I honestly don't think Wilfred Nancy came in, Melly, and did anything so shocking that we all need to bin the whole idea and frantically get Martin O'Neill back up the road.
No,
which has been suggested by some people legitimately.
Yeah, bag of cans and Martin O'Neill back.
Yeah.
But look, Nancy's come in and he's changed it, and like you say with Ange as well, it's right, I believe this is the way we're going to play, and it's always we need a plan B. But if plan B is better than plan A, then you do plan B all the time.
Yes.
That should be a plan A, shouldn't it? So, but with the problem with it was the aesthetics of it all, wasn't it? The constantly having players over looking at tactics boards. So that's where it all falls down here, because he's went, we're going to play like this, but clearly the players don't know what they're doing yet. But
that's to be expected,
So
wasn't
he's
it?
been in the country 3 days or something, isn't it?
And then that brings us back to the point, well, this is the position the guy has been put in, isn't it? This is where we waited and we waited and we waited 6 weeks to bring in a guy that's been available since, I think it was the 17th of November was the Cruise last game. But with this, if he's going to be over there showing tactics boards, you're going to get pelters because you've changed
You've mentioned it twice, the tactics board. Now, everyone's talking about it. You've brought it up twice. We need to mention it. We need to change tack slightly. What did you make of the tactics board thing, honestly?
When I noticed that he had it out, it was 0-0 at the time, and I thought, if he loses this game, he will get slaughtered for that, because that is what happens in Scotland and Britain. We've seen it with Ruben Amorim down there. If you lose the game using a tactics board, you're going to get slaughtered.
Russell Martin as well, isn't it? That's it's like his taking the players up the hill moment. That's absolutely fine. It's pretty standard practice if you're winning games, but if you lose, it looks like the most ridiculous thing in the world.
But for me, it's a tool to use to show players what you want, isn't it? It's used all over the world. It's a guy coming from America with a language barrier being French, and he's trying to show players as clearly as he can, this is what I want, this is what I expect. And that's a way to do it. Just get green markers instead of blue ones.
It was another damned if you do, damned if you don't, Stephen, because people, he's over there talking to the players all the time. He's got the bloody tactics. But listen, see if it was an iPad or a piece of paper that he'd handed the players, or he showed them on
still get slagged for the iPad. Everybody uses
I
an
know.
iPad.
So nobody would care, but it's the visual of moving the wee bits about, and we need to. I think there needs to be a collective acceptance of the situation we're in as fans, the situation we're in as a football club, and the situation the manager finds himself in. So he's working out as best he can on the side of the pitch. As Mel said, he's trying to communicate ideas to his players. But see if he'd sat there the whole game and wasn't he talking to the players and we'd lost, people be like, he's sitting in his hands, why is he not,
Aye, he's trying to affect the game. He's literally trying to do
I've got no problem with the tactics board thing at all.
It's such an embarrassing non-story. It's beneath contempt, really, but I do accept that that's just part of life, innit? It's
in
part
this day
of
and age, it's getting memed everywhere.
It's the landscape. It's the
The optics, as they call it.
It's the quite unfortunate thing about Scottish football. Everyone talks about how they want to modernise and have different types of methods, but as soon as anyone is seen to be having different types of methods, it's ridiculed immediately. I get it. You lose the game. That's what you're open to. It's all it is conveying information to the players on the pitch. It's no different to saying it. They're just showing them information. So the information is the same being conveyed from manager to player. It's just you have to say it, or I'm going to be furious about the method you're giving the information. It will take you literally 2 seconds to go and find pictures of Carlo Ancelotti and Pep Guardiola and basically every manager on earth using tactics boards. It's just they usually do it inside, right? They usually do it behind closed doors in the dressing room. But again, we haven't been afforded that opportunity because the guy's been in the country trying to implement tactics for about 3 days, most of which has been doing various bits and pieces of media. In a way, it's the same as Martin O'Neill. When he came in, there was less than 36 hours between him arriving in the country and having a game. He would have had almost no impact over that game whatsoever because he was mainly doing media. It's the same with Wilfred Nancy. It's just he's trying to learn. Or he's trying to not try to learn, but he's trying to work.
And he's changed
in
things,
real time,
which is a criticism that Brendan got. The fact this horseshoe definitely never changed it. He never changed it up. Whereas in real time, Nancy's trying to change things and he's communicating these ideas to the players with a tactics board, which in hindsight does. I get it. It looks silly, but I don't have a problem really with it.
No, and it's the amount of times players were over. But again, right, the players aren't going to know what he wants yet because he's had so little time. But right, when do you start implementing it? Because from now till February or possibly even March, we don't have free time. And this is the problem with bringing the guy in. The ideal time was the international break. But even then, players get back on the Thursday and they're playing on the Saturday or Sunday. So there was never an ideal time to do this. Celtic have left it. Martin O'Neill's results have got... He's been winning games, which means that he becomes the messiah again. And then you bring in this other guy, loses the first game, and he's off to a losing start, and you've just... The guy's got no chance now. There's going to be some people that's it for them. He's never going to turn them around, and it's no fair, but it was a big, big risk. It backfired, and he's got to take that in the chin now.
I think there's I think it's been a long time since the odds were stacked against the manager in this way. I'm not some Wilfred Nancy super fan, but I'm trying to look at it as pragmatically as I can, and as you said, the dithering to bring the guy in has meant his first 3 games are probably the toughest 3 games or the most important 3 games I've got of the season. The Martin O'Neill thing, I think there was a perception that when Martin O'Neill keep winning games, the board were like, well, this gives us a bit of breathing space. And you know what? That's probably worked against Wilfred Nancy a wee bit because the more games Martin O'Neill has won, there's probably been no pressure to speed this process up. The problem the board have got there is they put an interim in charge who was winning games, and there was no opportunity for this guy to take the job on full time. If it was just Sean Maloney, then they could have looked at that practically and went, do you know what? If Sean does well, we can maybe have the discussion about bringing him in as head coach and keep this rolling on. But they can't do it with Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill thought that he would be out of a job by the international break. Every week it rolled on and rolled. So it was unsustainable with Martin O'Neill, is what I've said. And that's kind of backfired against Wilfred Nancy a wee bit, because this argument is now people are immediately comparing the 2 managers. And I have to say, I think it's been really unfair because Nancy's got a completely different job to Martin O'Neill.
Yeah. And the timing's terrible. I sat here last week and just said, well, we had the discussion and I said he might deserve or require more patience and more time than anyone who's ever taken this job, because no one's ever taken it this early. No one's ever changed, or rather no new manager for Celtic has ever come in this early in a season with a tight title race going on and having to change things in December. The latest usually we get, I mean, even the likes of Barnes and Mowbray and Lennon, when they all left, it was February, and therefore it's a case of, right, can you see us through to the end of the season? This is pretty much unprecedented for a manager to take over for a month and then for the permanent manager to come in. So I think it would be terribly unfair of me to have said that last week and then to sit here and say, the guy's a fraud, we need to change this back up, get Martin O'Neill back in. I can't urge patience one week and then say, oh, well, this was ridiculous, what a shambles that was. It was always going to work out like this. I don't think there was any good way that this was going to work out, particularly with the involvement of Martin O'Neill. Now, I understand why that in some ways had to happen, because the fans and the club just generally needed a lift. But in a lot of other ways, it has it has really put it's like an albatross around Wilfred Nancy's neck. Just the spectre at the feast is always going to be Martin O'Neill for the rest of the season now. Because
imagine we gave him another week and gave him the cup final, then your manager's got 2 weeks to train with squad before a January window opens
that
up.
was the thing. So I'm looking at this now and I'm going, the timing was so I think the sort of the topic of the moment is the board, right? And everyone's furious about them and they can't seem to see it. But once again, I am back going, there's been so many small decisions made here that I'm worried they're starting to compound into bigger mistakes. So
that's what Stephen talks about, isn't it? This ultra cautious board are very they just let these decisions go and go, we'll be all right, and it's always the club that suffers, isn't it?
It's a super risky decision. So Brendan Rodgers resigned. There's two parties involved in that resignation. So he goes, they bring in Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill stayed too long, as I've already discussed it. The moment to bring in Wilfred Nancy was probably that national break. You missed that. Why bring him in now? You might as well have kept Martin O'Neill on for another week to get these 3 difficult games out of the way, because if Martin O'Neill loses to Hearts, loses to Roma, and wins or loses the cup final, everyone's still going to love him. And as you say, you bring in Nancy at that point and he's got time to, that's a much better time to bring the...
But my point there was, if you bring him in after that, he's got a couple of weeks before the January window opens. So again, there's no good time because they've waited so long here.
Well, plus there is a scenario as well where Martin O'Neill just says, no more. No, like, I'm not being flippant about that. He was already in an interim job, an inordinate amount of time for any kind of interim jobs. He was in for what seemed like a couple of weeks and it ended up being 5-6 weeks. There might have been a scenario where he just says, no, that's enough, because again, it's pure speculation here, but I'm just kind of reading between the lines. He might have seen the writing on the wall as well with the level of performance. I said a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week, I can't remember what it was, I said we're always going to be limited by the standard of player we have. It doesn't really matter who the manager is. Yes, we might have ups and downs. We might have a bit of a new manager bounce when it comes to Martin O'Neill, but the performances had dipped off, and that's my problem with the whole concept of saying that Wilfred Nancy has torn everything up. What do you mean? Tore what up?
Yeah.
Is it just wins?
He's taking Luke McCowan away from right wing.
Yeah. So, and again, this is not to diminish Martin O'Neill's achievements with the team, because that's undeniable. But what I'm saying is, if you say Wilfred Nancy has discarded what Martin O'Neill was doing, what we're really looking at there is having the team play quite badly against Dundee, against Hibs, against St Mirren, and scrape a win. So what do you want Wilfred Nancy to do? You want to scrape a win? You want to win? How do we do that? Do you want him to manage in such a way that was going to be a bit of a slog, and then Callum McGregor pings one in from 25 yards in the dying seconds of a game? That's not a plan. Yes, it's an outcome. It's a favourable outcome compared to what happened against Hearts. But what you have to expect a manager to plan to do something. And yet again, but I have to weigh this up with the fact that he dramatically changed the formation. But what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to get across is that what Celtic were doing against Dundee, Hibs, and Feyenoord was brilliant, right? That was a great performance, one of the best performances we've seen all year, if not the best. But aside from that, performances had started to dip, and I can't square that. I can't draw the line between what Martin O'Neill was doing and what Wilfred Nancy chose not to do. He chose not to struggle against Dundee and then have one sort of scraping off Dyson as he broke his head in the process, and then struggled to create chances. This team's no good enough to just decide to win games. Martin O'Neill was getting a tune out of them, but that had started to taper off, and we were kind of riding our luck towards the end. I don't want to overemphasise that, but again, look, see if you're going to ding one in for 25 yards, that's not something you can plan for. It's not. No one plans to do that. So what I'm kind of urging a bit of patience and a bit of leniency here when it comes to, what do you expect Nancy to do that is closer to what Martin O'Neill was doing?
He just needs to keep working harder. Was he right to rip everything up, as people have been saying, as it's been sort of termed? Was he right to come in and implement his ideas right away? Yes, because that's what football managers do. Yeah. And I don't think you could really... you can't just, I'm repeating myself, you can't just tell a guy do what Martin O'Neill was doing. Was he right to come in, Martin? Just a final point on this, because we've got other things to discuss, but was he right to come in and do what he thinks is the best way to win football games as soon as possible? Tell you what, it takes balls to do that.
Yeah.
It takes ball, and fair play to the guy for doing it. So, yes, the outcome wasn't great, what we wanted, but was he right in his decision? I think he was.
Yeah, and if you look back at the game, like, the result was poor. The performance in the second half wasn't great, but first half, the atmosphere was like pretty electric at times, man. Everybody was behind the new manager. When Celtic started getting going, you could feel the crowd getting going as well. And look, Dyson Maeda's got 2 golden chances in the first half to put Celtic in the lead, and see if Celtic
Kenny missed an absolute sitter as well.
Yeah, if Celtic can get
Engels.
Celtic get themselves into the lead in that game, the crowd's getting going behind this new guy, the atmosphere gets going, Celtic probably settle into the game and probably get through it, but they didn't. Hearts get one opportunity, I can't remember much else in the second half. Celtic defend it poorly, and we go in behind at the break, and it's like, oh dear, we're going to struggle here, and then we give away another goal. So despite the tearing everything up, the performance in the first half was better than the Dundee game, the St Mirren game, the Falkirk game, all these games we've seen recently. It's just we didn't get the goal. And if you look at Celtic across the piece this season, they've been fairly decent defensively, but our problem is chance creation, but more chance conversion.
Yeah.
We don't really create much, but then when we do create big chances, we've only scored like half of the big chances we've created. That's a big problem. And when we look back on it, why is that? Oh, because we sold all the good players that used to do that. So Celtic are struggling here because of the problems that have come before the manager. The manager's just another guy in that. Brendan Rodgers struggled, Martin O'Neill struggled, and now Nancy struggled in his first game.
So I suppose the other big talking point from the Wilfred Nancy implementing style was the formation, the playing 3 at the back with the wing backs up. That was a big change. Patreon.com/20minute Tims is where you can get post-match podcasts for every Celtic game, as well as extra videos, extra writing, fortnightly Q&As and all that really good stuff. You can also support this podcast if you like it. You get it early, you get it ad-free. There's loads of huge benefits that thousands of people are enjoying on patreon.com/20minute Tims. The link is in the bio. You guys did the post-match for the game. Melly, you sounded as if you weren't too sure, even not about Nancy as a manager, but even about the 3 at the back. You sounded like you had reservations over that sort of formation, that style of play, and how it's going to translate for Celtic anyway.
Yeah, it's for me, it's the big red flag about Nancy. It's not his coaching style, it's not the way he talks or the way he talks about the game, it's this formation. I don't think it suits Celtic or a team of Celtic stature in the league. I don't think you need 3 centre-halves in Scotland the way Celtic play. Celtic dominate 90% of the games they play. Having 3 centre-halves there, I don't think is necessary. For me, Celtic are at their best when they've got wide players like Jota, like Scott Sinclair, creating things or scoring goals. Taking that out of a team, not that we've got great wingers right now, but like Jota's just all of a sudden discarded for this team if we continue this formation, unless he changes that bit. But
talk a bit about it, just in case people didn't pick up on it or aren't. So you're saying Jota's discarded from the team? Why?
We didn't play wing back, so like we see.
Could he play inside a wee bit? Could he play as one of the kind of advanced 10s, if you like, behind a supporting striker?
Not for me. Where do we see Jota?
Central striker, rather. Sorry.
Where do we see Jota doing his best stuff on the touchline, cutting inside and then doing something? And with this formation, you're relying on your wing backs for your chance creation. But for wing backs, for me, it's getting the ball and getting balls into the box. Defenders eat that up in Scotland, so what you need to do is work passes, work triangles, and then maybe get cutbacks, and I just don't see that. As well with the sort of box midfield where you have 2 holding midfielders, then the 2 number 10s. There's no space in the middle in Scotland. It's all condensed in there. The space is out wide, and that's where you get it. And I just don't see, when a lot of my problem with Celtic in the game was when we did get the ball into the final further into the box yesterday, there was nobody in the box. There wasn't enough bodies in the box. And I look at this formation and go, right, where are Celtic going to get goals from? Because we're not getting them from the forward areas. And basically we're relying on midfielders to score goals. And that's going to be probably long-range shots and stuff like that. I just don't know if it's sustainable. Look, Celtic have got better players than everybody. If they get the right players in to play this formation, it'll probably be good. But that's going to take January, the summer, and the following summer, and that's as well without even selling MD. So I just don't see, if you're going to implement this formation, you need to get the players in for it. And if it works, it's brilliant. If it doesn't work, you're stuck with all these players that very few managers play a formation. If somebody was to replace Nancy after that, whether it works out well and he goes, or whether he gets sacked and it's not working. So it's a massive, massive change. But look, this formation, 4-3-3, Celtic don't have the players for any formation right now.
You've teed that up quite nicely for me, because I was going
No
to
problem.
say what an assist that is. So let's see if I can knock it away or blaze it over the bar.
No, if you played for Celtic.
so I was just about to say, look, in the interest of balance here, because I don't want this to just turn into no, nothing's wrong, like just an apology session for the new manager, because it's only right that you criticise what is valid criticism of a performance as well, because it's all very well just saying numbers like 3-4-3, 4-3-3, 4-4-2. It's all very well saying these numbers, but you actually look at a lineup and you think, right, well, wait a minute, it's all very well implementing your so-called style of play and your belief system, but then you look at the team. You've got Tenekte at left wing back, you've got Yang at right wing back, you've got 3 left-footed centre halves, you've got Negrin and Hatate playing as kind of dovetailed number 10s, and I have to now represent the opinion of people who may be watching, listening, and say, but the team's a lot of nonsense. Like, it's an incoherent mess to put that together and
Square
just say
pegs and round holes.
to just say, I don't think it's appropriate to just say, well, that's my style of play, that's my beliefs, that's my formation, therefore it makes sense and it was right to do it, because the team is a shambling mess at the moment in terms of personnel. What I would say against that is that I don't know if necessarily a 4-3-3 in this particular game would have changed much. I'll never know. But based on some evidence that we've gathered over the course of the season, particularly against Hearts, it would have involved going to a back four. That would have involved not being able to call upon Sarachi because he's injured again. Kieran Tierney played probably just about got pass marks against Hearts. I think he started all right, but he was culpable for one of the goals right enough. But Kieran Tierney hasn't been great from the start as a left back getting forward this season. As part of a back four, he hasn't been great in terms of like getting forward. Now I know I'd say that in full knowledge that he got forward and scored the goal, but I'm talking about a 90-minute performance. You go to the other side, particularly against Hearts, Donovan was absolutely destroyed against them at Tynecastle against Kizaridis. So you're looking at that again. Again, it's all hindsight. Kizaridis didn't really do much in the game, but I'm talking about going into it. How do you fix these problems that a quite unforgiving personnel 3-4-3 is going to apparently throw up? I don't know if we've really get the players for the alternative, which would have been the 4-3-3, because it has problems no matter what you do. As
McCowan's been playing right wing, hasn't he?
Yeah. So
Donovan or Ralston, Tierney in there. And look, it's probably less square pegs and round holes, but it's no ideal. It's far from ideal. So what do we do? Do we tear it up and go with what this guy wants to do, or do we just wait and wait and wait?
You have to go all in the man. Just see if you've brought him in and he plays a particular way, and I can understand your concerns, because my main concern with the 3 at the back is, this might be really simplistic, but if we've got 3 centre halves sat in there, which I don't think we need, I think you're right to say that, and we've got the wing backs and we're losing a wing, we've got a guy in central defence effectively that could be playing in an attacking role, and I think that would suit Celtic better. To make that 3 at the back, you need to remove someone from somewhere, and
particularly those guys as well. Again, the trouble with the personnel is you can't imagine any of the 3 of those guys like stepping into midfield or anything like that.
Yeah.
They're not really.
Callum McGregor drops in as well.
none of them can pass. None of them are passing centre half.
Trusty's game for it. Like he picks up the ball and tries to move forward, but very often, like, he was on the right side of the back 3, and very often he cuts back in on his left foot, as is kind of natural. That's kind of likely to happen. So then that becomes that. I suppose
they do maybe an asymmetrical thing with Tierney, sort of like Lustig used to do,
Yeah.
like drop in.
See, the problem again with this for me is that you don't have a right-footed guy, so there's a Brendan Rodgers balance thing. But Liam Scales of the midweek game and the weekend game should put to bed any chance that he's even going to get fought about for Celtic Player of the Year. An absolute
Whether you like it or not, he's winning it.
disgrace of a week from a Celtic player from Liam Scales. But Kieran Tierney's in there at left centre half, and you think, oh, do you know what? He can't get up and down anymore. The poorest bit from Kieran Tierney for me this season has been his passing. Yeah, if you're putting him at a left centre half, that's the main bit you want him to do, isn't it? Is the passing. So even if we're going to go with a back 3, Celtic lost a goal from a corner, so having a back 3 doesn't make us any more physical or give us any any more height in the team. So I'm really not sure on it unless you get the players. And you see it with Man United, they spent hundreds of millions in the summer and they're still 3 or 4 players away from getting this formation sorted. So I don't know if you're ever going to get the players for this formation.
And the trusty thing, just a final thing on the kind of the sort of balance of the team, the trusty on the right thing, again, he's a good player, but as far as him bringing the ball out goes, him being on the right side and bringing the ball out and then checking into his left foot, that's the flap of the butterfly wing that starts the horseshoe of death. Because what happens,
the lanes or whatever he can pass into,
eventually they'll just leave him to do that, and they'll block everyone else off. Then he goes back to Schmeichel, and that's where it starts. Like, no one, I really doubt. Again, I wouldn't know because it happened an awful lot, but I really doubt that Brendan Rodgers wants to see the horseshoe of death that we talk about. It's just that the team ends up sort of defaulting to that because there are key deficiencies here and there. Very small things that build up to that happening. And if that's going to be what's happening going forward with Trusty, we're just bound to see the same thing again.
Just thinking about how all we've got on, Brendan Rodgers, all he's gone on about is not getting the players to play the formation he wants. And all of a sudden we've brought in a manager that plays a completely different formation, but we'll need the players to fit.
This is what happens with Celtic all the time. Celtic they bring in a manager to play a specific system, a way that he wants to play. They don't give him the players. The manager says, I don't have the players to play in that system to be successful. The board say, yes, you do. The manager says, no, I don't. The board say, yes, you do. The manager goes, okay, bye. The board go, okay, bye. And they get another guy. Happened with Brendan the first time. Happened with Neil Lennon, who said he took the team as far as they could go.
That's right, yeah.
Happened with Ange. Happened with Brendan again there. And now we've got a new guy in, and we're saying he's not got the players to do what he wants to do. And you were talking about the butterfly effect, getting Trusty on the ball is the butterfly effect for things not working. The whole entire reason Celtic are in the position we're in now, and I mean the fan unrest, the Europa League, the Martin O'Neill coming back, the Wilfred Nancy, the Rodgers, the whole reason we're in this mess is because we messed up just 2 transfer windows.
Yeah,
you get 2 transfer windows in 12 months. We messed up last January in the summer, and it has caused almighty chaos at Celtic. So that was the butterfly effect for that. Another piece of head loss this week after the game was Wilfred Nancy's comment, Stephen, about I'm not about winning or losing.
Okay, yeah.
And I think a lot of people just went, oh my God, like, what have we done? Like, I know that's not everyone's take, but I'm in one group chat today that had to effectively get shut down because there was people losing the absolute nut on it, and the guy that runs the group chat had switched it off and went, "This is doing my fucking head." So there's been a lot of this. Oh my God, what does he mean? He's at the wrong club if it's not about winning or losing. But the point he was making, Stephen, wasn't it that the wins will come? I'm not concerned today about winning. I want the players to play my way. I want to see the application. I want to see the aggression, the fast passing. I want to see all that. And once we do that, believe me, the wins will come. That's what he meant.
I mean, it's almost exactly word for word. It's just the accent has changed word for word what Ange was saying exactly. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was Ange first came in, it's exactly the same stuff. It's managers who treat winning as a consequence of playing well. That's all that is. It's not I don't really care if we win or lose. I'm here for a jolly. I don't understand Scottish football. It's all a lot of nonsense, really. You want wins? It's not that. Can we stop framing it that way? I think it is completely ridiculous. I mean, look, famously, everyone's favourite, everyone wanted Knutson to be the manager. He was hot favourite for not everyone, but I'm sure the vast majority of Celtic fans, if polled, would have quite liked Kjetil Knutson or whatever his name is, right? Who was yours?
I didn't have a favourite, but I was strictly on no Knut November. I didn't want him anywhere near the club.
How are you getting on with it? Have you broken it?
No, I lasted 7 months. Which is actually
that's a bad
go on.
I really almost said something there. Yeah. Anyway, so SBS behave. A little bit of respect for our listeners. Yeah. So, Knutson, I'm sure, and that is just off the top of my head after you brought up the subject, I'm sure he famously never uses the word win.
He doesn't.
Right, so he never says that word because philosophically he believes...
Because he's got a Norwegian word for it.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Norwegians have a word for it. I just don't know what it is. So he says that, and It's just a version of that.
Yeah.
It's just a reassurance
It's
that
modern management speaking.
Yeah,
Every manager says basically the same thing.
it's just trust the process in different words. It's just what managers say. They want to get the team to a level of performance where wins should follow after that. Because I find it very unhelpful and quite. I mean, it's useless to separate performance and winning. No, I don't want to perform well. I want to win. Okay, how? How do you? How
That's
do you
the
want to do
Martin
that?
O'Neill thing, isn't it? Because there's been so
Aye.
many people that just thought Martin O'Neill just turned up and went, win these games, lads, and they went
Aye.
out and won them. And then, as if Nancy's come in and went, right, park winning for a second, we're going to do something
Aye.
else.
And as if Martin O'Neill said, I don't want to play well. What I want to do is win. So just do that. It's vast oversimplification of things. Every manager wants to play well because that's what wins football games. It'd be a very strange thing to do to say, I'd rather win than play well, because playing well is quite a long way to gaining those wins. That's all he's saying. He wants to implement his style clearly. He wants to get the team to a level of performance that he sees that matches his vision for the team, so that wins will follow after that. I think framing it as, oh, he doesn't care about winning because he doesn't understand the unique pressures of Scottish football, I think is disingenuous pish, to be perfectly honest.
There was a really good interview with Mark Fotheringham, and I think it was Cal McFadden that did it, isn't it? And it was a great interview, and Mark Fotheringham went in to talk a little bit about the tactical tweaks.
Yeah.
You know, pressing triggers, changing pressing triggers, and lines of passing and different
Play a bit more vertical, wasn't
playing
it?
a bit more vertical, and the different tactical things they were doing to feed the players a wee bit more information and all that. And as soon as I read that interview, I thought, honestly, that is something that people, particularly the Celtic dads I'm talking about here, definitely thought Martin O'Neill went in and went, see all this pish, forget about this. Win games, run harder. And it was quite interesting to hear that, no, what actually happened was we changed tactical tweaks and tactical things, and every manager's the same. And I think Nancy was getting a bad rap for this. It's not about winning or losing, but as Stephen said, it's the same stuff we hear from Ange. It's the same what you hear from Brent. It's the same. I know maybe Brent's a bad example because he eventually not stopped winning games, but
What was it, 5-13 towards the end?
Yeah.
And he was still giving interviews to the BBC about how at Celtic you need to win absolutely every game. Meanwhile, we hadn't won games for weeks at the time.
I know. So I thought it was just a wee bit of head loss, Melly. I didn't think he said anything too triggering after the game.
No, but it's just on to hiding to nothing, isn't he? That no matter what he says, and look, could he be a bit smarter about it? But then you go, hold on a minute, is this us with the suits here? Like,
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
don't use a tactics board. Don't say you don't have to win. Look, we've seen this with Ange. Like you said, he came in, he won a game, then he lost a game. He won a game, and in the games you won, he thought, do you know what? I can see how this works. And there was points in the first half where I thought, do you know what? This is a bit more direct. We played balls over the top early. We were trying to get people in early, and I thought, do you know what? It's not as short passing as I thought it would be. It's not going to be this
Couple
slow,
of lovely
steady.
switches of the play from Cal McGregor, particularly. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's like it falls down because the footballers you've got doing it aren't very good.
Yeah.
Tenecti failing to beat a man. Tenecti playing at left wing back, which is sort of the manager's fault, and cutting inside every time, so you're running into trouble. Yang is the other right wing back who's done okay recently, but you're taking him away from the position he was doing okay to putting him in a completely different position. And then, but I just don't see, like, what do we do? Do we just keep going along with this until it falls and then go, right, now I'm going to change it? Or do you go, no, this is the way I'm going to play? You either get on board or you're not going to
So
play.
I think that's the thing. A name we've mentioned a lot on the podcast is Ange, and I've seen that so much recently with the Wilfred Nancy discourse. And honestly, I think the two things only guys have got in common with each other is the fact that Celtic fans hadn't really heard of either of them. I think Ange's CV is, well, his career was much longer and he was much more successful than Wilfred Nancy was when he came to Celtic. But I think one thing that they probably do require in common, that if we lose against Roma and we struggle in the cup final, as I've pointed out, I think footballers, he needs to get buy-in for the players. And if it's not working and the footballers start to think you're changing too much too soon, one thing that Ange did have going for him was like that commitment for the players. He had them all bought in, even when things weren't going well.
But just on that,
Nancy needs that, doesn't he?
as Ange was getting the commitment, he was also getting players in. So we signed, 11 players in his first season or something. Might have been more than that. The first window, we were signing all sorts of players. Some played, most of them played, a lot of them didn't. Wilfred Nancy's not got that. So while you're saying, we might take a few not doings, but a few bumps in the road, that was going to happen anyway with these players. Like, Celtic were never going to get through this December period. And again, we are working up to the 1st of January as if Celtic are going to have 4 players lined up on the 1st of January. So that the thing with Ange is he had players coming in that could adapt to the system and could play it. Nancy's not got that. He's stuck with these players for the foreseeable future. Brendan Rodgers has seen it, Martin O'Neill's seen it, and now he's seen it. They're not very good players. So no matter what formation he does, whether he gets buy-in or not, he might get buy-in off them. They've not got the quality to deliver.
Yeah. I suppose the point I was making the same was that is one thing that's working again, Wilfred Nancy, internally, isn't it? Because we know footballers they're not going to sit about losing football games until they feel like Wilfred Nancy's. If they're sitting in the dressing room going, I can't believe that guy came in here and changed absolutely everything. This is mental. At least I feel like Ange had the buy-in from the squad that was there. Yeah, he got his new players, but he had that force of personality and commanded that. Nancy's going to need to work on that element. He's going to need that if he's going to succeed.
So you use the word personality there. I think that's also key. No, I don't know anything about Wilfred Nancy apart from the little bit of media footage I've seen of him behind the scenes stuff from Celtic. That's all I've really seen.
Far too much of that.
Yeah, a couple of interviews here and there. But I think one thing that Ange did have going for him, as you say, he came in and he had gravitas straight away with the squad, and that was built up.
Are we Rangers? Are we doing? Did you just use gravitas where they use staunch?
Yeah, it's the meme. It's the David Mitchell meme, isn't it? Are we the ravenous bears?
Yeah.
So there's every time. No, but what I mean is we're talking very specifically not about like pinning people up against the wall with their necks. No, we're talking very much about player buy-in.
Yeah, and
you could see that with Ange straight away. And because you brought up the matter of experience in the CV that's different to Nancy with Ange, is that's what made me think of it. Ange had built up the gravitas, to use that word again. He'd built that up over a long career across many countries and many achievements within those countries. So he walks into the Celtic dressing room, and yeah, people might not know who he is, but he's able to command that straight away because of who he is and his personality. And I'm not saying Wilfred Nancy isn't all of those things. I just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
So I can't see it. And where we were worried about it under Ange at first because we were losing games, and then there was the draw against the United at home. Yeah. So it dropped several points in the very early exchanges of that season. We were worried about it because we'd lost so many players that summer, so many players on loan. Scott Brown had moved on. The squad was in bits, but there was the little glimmer of hope, as you've alluded to there, Mel. There was the little glimmer of hope that we've got this guy Kyogo coming in. It's on the day of a game, but there's a little bit of hope coming in. Starfelt's coming in. We're signing players. Nancy, because of the situation, because of the pretty much unique circumstances, just is not being afforded that at all, and we need to somehow muddle on to January. And even at that, we do this every year.
We're going to come to the January window.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that we do this every single year, and on this occasion, it is arguably even more fanciful than it usually is to say we're going to fix all the problems in January. I think it's fantasy stuff, really, but we're going to need to hope. We have no choice but to hope that significant work is done in January. We have no choice whatsoever.
Why do we do this every time? But we're looking at January, and the people that got us in this mess are the ones that are going to get us out of this mess in January.
Do you want an impression? Right. I'm going to not of your. I do the impression. You guess.
Right.
Like if I told you up front, that would defeat the. Right. Here's an impression. Right. Ready? Right. 3, 2, 1.
And for the benefit of listeners, Jamie he is miming falling asleep, and
it could be meditating.
Wow.
Is that P. Tiddy?
It was P. No. I was like, that's quite good. Then I remembered that you can't.
I bumped it from the Discord. So
did you? Okay.
Not my own stuff, but this is the problem.
It's like the kind of thing I write.
We're going into January and we're thinking it's a be all and end all, whereas the last 2 Januaries have cost us a lot because we didn't bring a left back one year, that we didn't bring in a striker last year and we sold a striker. But we're looking at this as, we'll sort it all in January. But the problem is these people have got us into this mess, and those people, the board, Paul Tisdale, are the ones that have brought in Wilfred Nancy. And if this goes wrong at the start of it, he's going to be their man, and it's going to go again. The toxicity around Celtic exists. He's coming into this environment. Everyone's hating. Most people are hating on the board. They've brought in this guy that's maybe not MD's. Well, it's nobody's first choice. Probably it's maybe seen as, this is a big change for the managers we usually bring in, and then it's going to be this is your guy. You've done it again. He's not going to get a lot of leeway.
There's no
Well,
doubt about
people,
there's no doubt about it. I mean, he is. Paul Tisdale appears to be the architect of the new Celtic that we're watching just now. And I think, like, before we got in the January window, I just want to reiterate that, I feel for Wilfred Nancy. I think it's a very unique situation he's come into.
Yeah.
As you say, Stephen, the odds are stacked against them in terms of how this team's been performing, the manager that he followed, and that short period of success that Mark O'Neill had with Celtic. The players he's got, the fact that the January window's so far away, the odds are heavily stacked against them. And as we keep saying, this is the impression that it's going to get fixed in January. You're having an honestly, I can say this with confidence, and if I'm wrong, I'm not even going to say they prove me wrong unless they repeat it, because I'll just put it down to a fluke. The mess of the transfers in this club, as I said earlier on the podcast, we're in this whole mess because we messed up 2 transfer windows. The transfer window in the summer, every single player we scouted and paid money for as a purchase was a waste. Everyone was a waste in January. There's not one. Every single one of them could leave in January that arrived in the summer, and we'd probably be better off with another player. Just a pure lucky dip of someone else. Balikwisha, who is starting to look more and more puzzling, hasn't got off the bench in 6 games, and he's played about half an hour in the last 10 games.
Are you saying waiting until the end of the window to get the best
Yes.
value and getting the players we actually wanted wasn't the best
That's
idea?
so clever.
It's with all this board chat and the protests and all the negativity that's around the club, the one thing that we've lost sight of is that January window, summer window rather, has been a complete and utter disaster. The money that's wasted is unbelievable, and it's amazing that nobody's lost their job for it. In fact, we've given the guy, the architect of that window, we've given him the keys to the whole club. So the fact that if you think this is going to get fixed in January, I just see no evidence whatsoever
none.
for that.
No, and even just as we've been talking this out here, I've kind of started to realise I'm quite worried about something there as well, because I had started to think that, look, the board, they're not, as much as we'll have problems with them, they're not completely oblivious. They must know there's mounting pressure on them. There's mounting calls for them to either address the communications made to them and address the questions put to them by the fans collective, or outright just go, right? There's mounting calls for that to happen. And they know that
They can't survive this. If this doesn't work, there's no way they can survive.
Well, see, that's my worry. So
why not?
So that's what I'm coming to. Part of me was thinking, as you were explaining it out there, I thought, right, well, if this is the bold new direction, if this is the new Celtic we're trying to build, they have to get this right. It would be an easy win for them to just do the right business in January, fix all the things they promised to do. I'm not expecting anything unreasonable here. This is what they promised to do. They said they were going to get it right next time. They acknowledged the mistakes and said they were going to get it right next time. Just do that, and it's not going to fix everything because we lost the Champions League as a result of this decision making at the time, right? But it'll go some way. But then as soon as you started talking about Paul Tisdale, I thought, right, the very existence of this guy worries me, because there's an angle you can take where you can say, right, the board, I've got no choice. They need to win the fans back and they need to get it right. But there's your easy sacrificial lamb if they don't get it right. What they can do is just say, right, off with his head, and we all stay, and we just do it all again. We just put another one of these interchangeable directors of football, heads of recruitment, whatever it is. We've seen about 5 of them in the last 10 years or whatever. Just stick another one of them in, and we're all safe, because we can just, as I said, use him as a sacrificial lamb. So those are the two outcomes that I'd much rather the board did their jobs and did it properly than try and appease people by, as I say, just throwing him off the...
Rather than just give Brendan Rodgers the players he needed to make this team a success, they decided to fall out with a guy and go the direction of Paul Tisdale, and we're going to see how that plays out. But I've got no confidence we're going to fix this in January. We might get 1 or 2 players in, but this is a 2 or 3 window effort. Absolute minimum. You were talking about the board and all the negativity. It seems that Wilfred Nancy had his launch. He had his Jenny McCulloch interview and everything else, and then they had the press conference. And usually the way fan media works is, I kind of hate talking about the fan media behind the scenes thing because it's a bit navel gazing, but it came up online, so we might as well address it.
The collective have taken it on.
The collective have taken it on, so it's worth addressing there that, there's a fan media rota, and you're rotated in for the games to go to the press conferences, and it's split up between various people that do content creators and all that. Anyway, the content creators that were rotated in for that game, for that press conference, were basically sent an email earlier in the morning saying, look, this fan media thing is under review. So it appears the club is sort of taking issue with fan media in some kind of way. I suppose another way to look at it would be, I think they didn't have a Wilfred Nancy press conference on his own. They just had they just had a match day one that was streamed live, which was quite unusual as well. They don't normally do that. There was no Michael Nicholson at his unveiling, but they did a separate interview with Michael Nicholson, so I think they try to tick that box there. And a part of me does wonder if the fan media thing is just they wanted to limit the unpredictable nature of a live press conference, so they didn't let us go. We've personally not heard anything.
Plus timing. Again, it'd be, I suppose it'd be only fair of us, only balanced of us to acknowledge the fact that we've sat here for quite a while now talking about the sort of unprecedented circumstances and the less than ideal timing of all of this, and not at least open the door to there being just no opportunity to do the usual stuff.
They've not communicated directly with us anyway.
No.
But we have heard through the grapevine that other people said that the fan media access is under review. Kind of puzzling for me, I've got to say. I think if it is because we've been critical of the board, and we can only speak for ourselves, other creators are free to do whatever they want, that should be allowed, shouldn't it, Stephen? We should be able to sit here as paying season ticket holders that pay our way into the game every single week and have done for years. We should be able to sit here and be critical of the people that run the club.
We're campaigning for free speech here.
We should be able to do that. We should be able to sit here, and if people want to listen to it, and if people like what we say, they should be able to listen to it. We shouldn't be banning people just because they're critical of you.
Look, it comes with the territory. Being in that position as the public facing, or rather, they're not public facing enough, but they are, to all intents and purposes, the public facing leaders, the custodians of Celtic Football Club. It comes with the territory that criticism and being held to account is part of the gig. That's just how it works. But yeah, if it comes to pass that they have decided to ban or in some way punish, now, as I said, or as you said, Jamie, there's no evidence to suggest that is the case. It's just been kind of murmurs online about how they're fighting back and banning fan media because they don't like what people say and all that. Right? Again, I can't speak for anyone else. I think
it would be polite of them to clarify this.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we can probably expect that at some point. If not, they'll maybe just quietly bring it to a close,
like they kind of did last season. They kind of wound it down a wee bit, didn't they?
A little bit. I think my personal opinion. Again, I'm not going to speak for anyone else. This is purely my opinion. I think at worst it would just be a little bit petty from the club, and therefore a bit of a shame, because sometimes fans like that fans are represented in some way at these press conferences, and quite often they express that they've taken value from the types of questions that we, again, we can only speak for us in our experience, that we ask at these things. But see, if they do this, I'm really, personally speaking, I don't care at all, because it's just, I want to bust a few myths about this whole fan media access and the platforms, and not wishing to rock the boat because we get all this traction and attention and money and all that from stirring up negativity, and you can't criticise the board because they'll stop your access, and you don't want that as if we're in there with the club. It's just not true. I wish there was a more creative way to go about saying that, but it's just...
I would get invited to put a ballpark on it, we get invited to roughly, the way the rota works out, maybe 6 or 7, maybe 8.
Including less than that,
including new players and things like that. We get new player ones,
press conferences.
Yeah, we'll get like ones during the summer and during January where we can turn up and talk to new players and stuff like that.
And you get to ask one, given the time constraints everyone in the room, you might get to ask one question if you're quick wit. So in terms of what we benefit from the fan media access, as Steve was pointing out, I think we benefit from getting to ask an absolute maximum 10 questions a year.
No, and absolute maximum.
And quite often the answers are media trained within an inch of their life, and you get nothing from it anyway.
And in terms of what it gains us personally, now again, this isn't widespread, but you do see the accusations of you doing it for attention and traction and clicks and all that. We don't have a website, so clicks are of absolutely no use to us. Yes, it is true that people watching our YouTube channel benefits us and gets us into more eyes and ears and all that, and therefore, it's monetized, just being completely transparent about it. But in terms of what those actually do for us, like for example, I looked into this today because I knew the subject was likely to come up. Jamie, you got the chance to ask Brendan Rodgers a question to his face about 3 or 4 months ago now. This is at the absolute height of everything going off the rails, and like people were demanding answers, and you asked him a question to his face. It got about 8,000 views when we put it out as a clip on YouTube, right? As a short. It gained us 2 new subscribers.
Okay.
And generated staggering revenues of 71 pence.
Oh,
Hey,
So just to, like,
listen.
it's just to address any accusations that we're in this for the money and all that kind of stuff, and we wouldn't dare rock the boat because that will be cut off, right? For example, us putting out a clip of Melly telling a story last week about being called a bead-rattling bastard on the subway, that will gain us far more views
So
and
what you're
traction
saying
and
is-
attention than us talking to Brendan Rodgers. There are clips...
sectarianism sells.
There you go.
There are,
Melly, you need to go out and start stirring things up a wee bit, get called more names.
there are clips of us slagging Michael Beale online that have been viewed like 250,000 times and all that. In terms of the actual traction and attention and notoriety and all that, us getting to these press conferences goes, it is infinitesimally small compared to us just dicking around
I know,
and
it's-
beside microphones. So I don't want to bore anyone about it because, again, in general probably nobody cares about it, but it was just to address the accusations you often see about us being in there with the club and mouthpieces for the board and all that kind
and
of
it's
stuff.
also make the point that to Celtic, really, like if you're banning us
Aye.
and thinking in any way that's going to change the narrative, or if you think that offers, if the club think it offers leverage over what we do
Yeah.
when we're sat in these 3 chairs, it's frankly preposterous.
Yeah, 71 pence split 3 ways before tax.
But
a year.
after the tax man gets his share, really.
Okay, it's disappointing, but if you're looking at it from the club's point of view, it was always coming, wasn't it? With how things are around Celtic, do they want fan media up there asking difficult questions when a new manager's just coming in? Probably not. It's not the best way to go about it from the club, but I'm not surprised, especially with the way things have went this season and the way we've been spoken down to this season. And no wonder when our only vocation in life is to be critical of the board. But it's just, what do we do here? Because if I was imagining if we would have been called up, it might have been like the Ange press conference where he was up there sat beside Dom Mackay and you get a question for each of them. So if it was Wilfred Nancy and Michael Nicholson, most of the questions would have been directed towards Michael Nicholson from the media and definitely from the fan media. So he would have been up there getting sort of roasted, and Wilfred Nancy sitting there like, what's going on here? And even the press conference that Nancy did, it was only 13 minutes or something like that. It was just, it wasn't very long at all. So I don't know if they'll do maybe one this week, but they'll probably can that now that he's been beaten the weekend. So I just don't see why the club just seem to be shooting themselves in the foot all the time. Like, it's just, get the fans up, get them to ask a couple of questions. Is it going to be worse than getting the headlines that you've told people not to come anymore and it's under review? Daft.
So if that goes away, if that were to go away forever, it doesn't affect us one bit. And if anything, it just makes things cleaner because that's never going to happen again. And therefore, there are no bloodlines, there are no accusations of anything being done for attention and clicks and all that kind of stuff. That's absolutely fine by me. It's not done anything for us. We've been going for 10 years. We gained an audience organically. We didn't get it because we turned up to, as you say, like a handful of press conferences a year and got a couple of questions. It's just not true.
We've been cut out of Desmond's will. And if you want to help us soften that financial blow, patreon.com/20minute Tims, or if you really want to stick it to the man, subscribe on YouTube as well.
We've been banned because the regime don't like
The
it.
regime don't, because we're too bloody. In fact, Celtic said they banned us because we're too bloody popular. So get it up them by smashing that subscribe button and telling 5 friends about 20-minute Tims. Listen, thank you very much for watching and listening. We will be back next week, whether Celtic like it or not. See you very soon.